Hello, welcome back. Week 3. Good job. You made it through 2 weeks, 2 learning units of our SQL course. And hopefully you're getting to learn all the basics of this particular very important scripting language. And we're going to move into kind of a different topic this week. Basically, I'm going to cover exporting data, which is very, very important, I would say, in most of the aspects in the data-driven world. So our discussion question for the week, excuse me, discuss 2 ways you learn this week to export data from, from SQL. And based on your own experience, my experience, I used to do this very commonly, export them to files that we can then transfer, over the web or save to a different drive, and then when servers and cloud came in, so all of that fun stuff is about moving data in a more efficient way. So to make sure you dig into that DQ and essentially, develop an understanding of the importance of exporting data. All right. So just to give you kind of an overview, once again, of the learning unit, yes, we have our assignments in you certify, very good environment. I do want to give you more of an overview of what I've experienced as far as exporting data. It's if you want to move into more of an analyst or developer or even a database administrator, exporting data is a common task in those particular fields. It's going to allow you to share with other systems, which is critical now. Back up your data, analyze using tools. You're going to learn about front-end tools that will provide access to data. Exporting data is truly a part of that. Truly, and definitely with tools that are used by within data science on those platforms. Data science is one of the kind of the foundations of what I would say essentially how AI accesses data. So literally one of the most common methods for exporting data is using SQL and SQL queries. Even now, even when you run a front-end, platform, very, I would say at the foundational level, it's probably running a basic, select query and then an export scenario to capture the data and basically format it so it can be moved across any type of media. I'm going to go through a very kind of a rudimentary example that I've used quite a bit. I'm going to use SQL Developer, and remember this query that I ran in Learning Unit 1, just selecting all the data from this employees table in my little test database. With this platform, you don't have to invoke any special functions at this point, and many of the platforms are the same way. You'll learn some of that. I want you to go through those exercises in SQL Developer, in SQL Server, excuse me. But with this platform, you can right-click on the data, and if you look very closely, there is an export selection on the pop-up menu. If you select that, it creates a nice little pop-up GUI that you can select the type, the file type, the format. And since I've done it a lot, I'm going to select CSV, which is basically the default for comma delimited. And you'll learn all about delimiters and all that fun stuff. And I'm just going to choose a location on my little local system here in my downloads folder. And I'm just going to call it just test employees and CSV. And save that, and you see and many platforms are the same. You can compress it if you like, because just because my data is pretty, small, just 20 records. I'm not going to compress it. I'm going to keep it, the encoding as UTF-8. And you will learn about all of these encoding types UTF-8 is probably the basic, one of the most rudimentary and kind of the first format. This gives you a chance to import it in separate files or single file or worksheet, whatever. And you can actually create, you can create a summary with this platform as well. So once you have selected your choices in this platform, then basically it gives you a summary of what it's going to export. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. And then when we finish, of course, there's no indication of being finished, so we actually have to navigate out to that, to our little downloads folder, and you see we do have a test employees. And if you look at the properties of that, you will see that it is a CSV file, which you can open up in Excel, but for visual purposes, I'm going to open it up in Notepad, which is a very basic text editor with Windows. And when you open up in Notepad, you see that it is truly what we call a comma delimited file. So with all the data, even the column headers and everything that you need, all within the context of that file. Of course, for the CSV file, if you simply double click on it, it will open it up in Excel, which is the Microsoft version. Basically the default for viewing comma delimited files. And you see we have all the data, and if you look at that data, it's a perfect export from our developer here, which is the key. So exporting files are very important. There's probably many use cases where exporting is your friend as far as analysis, and you will go through quite a bit. There in the assignments, they'll talk about XML, which XML is usually what you'll see on a website or web page. I did talk about a CSV. Remember, CSV just stands for comma delimited. I do want to say that SQL Server has a similar exporting tool, and you'll go through that. I didn't want to go through that. I would like for you to go through it in the assignment. But even some of the programming languages, if you're interested in learning Python, for example, Python has a very straightforward exporting tool. You'll probably at some point, I don't know if we do this in this class, but at some point you will run through it, connecting to your database using Python. And there's certain commands like importing libraries, etc., that you'll go through. And then I want to conclude this little lesson by talking about another use case that you'll see is exporting data so that it can be imported to a cloud system. And this is very important because they have certain security requirements, and they probably want your data to be the most rudimentary, most basic, without producing any interference that would create security obstacles. So just remember that. So the purpose of this lesson unit, a little less work, but basically is to understand how to export files. One of the exercises, you're going to combine results from two queries, and I'm not going to do that here for you, but it's pretty straightforward in comparing the results. And then you do get into joining tables. Specifically, just to give you a brief overview of joining tables, this is where you can run a query that will go across two or more tables. It's very useful in a relational database scenario, and SQL is a big part of that. So there you go. Kind of a big quick overview. Exporting files is probably your biggest topic here. And once again, please let me know if you're having any difficulties. Just send me an email, and I will definitely be able to assist. Take care.